All right, so let's talk about perception versus reality. Again, another fundamental analysis section where, oh, it's not the team or the community or something directly about the project. It's like a weird, external to the project type of fundamental analysis. But again, this is how you analyze the value of a project in crypto, okay? A lot of it is not actually about the project. It's about things around the project, the perception versus the reality of what is going on. So you make money in crypto basically by understanding something today that people don't yet understand. At its absolute core, that's basically how you make money, okay? You figure out something that the market is yet to figure out, and then you basically place your bets accordingly. You wait for that scenario to play out, and plays out in the way that you think it's going to play out, and then you sell it once it's played out, right? So you think something great's going to happen for this. Let's say there's a big update coming out for a coin, right? And it's going to come out in 2 months, and no one is thinking about this big update because they're all scattered around. They're not thinking about it. You go, okay, there's a big new update coming in 2 months. No one's talking about it. They are going to talk about it later on. So if I buy today before people start talking about it, before people understand it, then I'm going to be able to make money when people do understand it. Okay? And that's what you basically do in markets. You buy things when the value is not understood, or maybe the value isn't even there yet. And then you sell it when it's realized, when it's, the idea is played out, okay? And in crypto, this photo here is a really good visual of understanding the concept of perception, what people think something is worth, versus the reality of what it actually is worth. And now when I say like the reality of its value, I don't mean like there is actually a way that you can fairly value a crypto asset. But what I mean is that during certain periods of the market, people think the market is really bearish. For example, they think that prices should be lower, when in reality they probably should be higher. Not because the fundamental value is better, but because they're I guess the way that they perceive the value going in the future is wrong. Okay? For example, I just put some guy tagged me in a thing on Twitter. Right, I'll give you a classic example. Okay, this guy, I basically said something bullish, right? And this guy commented, "The problem is, bottom is not looking close for the economy right now." He said this in March, and I replied, I said, "That's an excellent narrative for a bottom. Thank you." And you can see right here, this was at the exact bottom, back at $20,000 for Bitcoin. I was like, that's a perfect narrative for a bottom, and this is where my Hunter algorithm gave us a bunch of signals, and I was buying in. Okay, so let me show you this in real time, right? Let me show you the signals. So we had a number of signals here, and I had bought a bunch of crypto, and I told people I was bullish, and this guy was like, "No, I don't think the economy doesn't look good right now." And I was like, that's a great narrative for a bottom, because what I was seeing was that, okay, maybe there's no real valuation metric for crypto, but the perception of what he thought the market should have been worth in the future, and what I saw as the reality of what the market should be worth, was entirely different. He was not looking at the data right. I was looking at the data right. Okay, and that's sort of how it plays out, right? The market had crashed down to 20k Bitcoin. It was here, and he was saying, "Oh, the macro economy, blah blah blah," but he wasn't looking at this. He wasn't looking at the reality of the fact that we're in a period of fear right now, and the actual fundamentals of crypto is improving rapidly, because we have an ETF coming out soon. We've just finished, a huge, massive decline, and we're now in an accumulation range. Mate, like, how much worse do you think things are going to get? Right? He just did not understand the fact that there was the perception versus the reality being so different, right? So buying the right coin, right, picking the right coin to buy, is only one component of doing, correct investing. It's only one component of doing fundamental analysis, because you can do fundamental analysis and find a really amazing coin in crypto, but every coin eventually goes down 90%. Every coin dies in a bear market. In the stock market, things generally tend to go up all, like, 90% of the time, right? Like, things just keep going up and up and up and up, and then it's just brief crashes, right? Brief, very sharp crashes, but then basically back to going up only. That's not what crypto does, okay? Let me show you the difference between crypto and stock price action. Stocks is like this. It's like slow, low volatility, boom. Low volatility, boom. Low volatility. It's like this, right? Whereas crypto is much more cyclical. So it's a lot of sideways and then parabolic. And then, you got the blow off top here. And then it crashes. And then it goes back into a reaccumulation range, right? Crypto is much more like this, okay? And so because crypto is like this, it's much more about timing the entry than it is about time in the market, because you make most of the money during a very brief period of time, and then you end up losing a lot of it, okay? And if you're not careful and you don't take profit, you're going to end up capturing a 90% downswing. So it doesn't matter what coin you buy in crypto. It can be the best coin ever. They all have this. They all have this huge downtrend. Even Solana, one of the best coins in crypto, had a 95% decline, 96% decline, even though it's such a good coin, right? You just can't escape the massive downtrend. Maybe in Bitcoin you can reduce the downtrend, but you can't escape it, okay? So this is why it's not about the right coin as much, because every coin eventually crashes. If you buy the best coin in the world at the wrong time, you're still going to lose money. Because what you need to do instead is two things. Buy the right coin at the right time. Timing is really, really important. Okay? So yeah, you can look at a coin and go, oh, the team's fucking amazing. The community's so strong. The sectors, it's in a big growing sector, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't fucking matter. If it's at the end of a bull run, you're going to lose. So you have to know when to buy when no one wants to buy things. And you have to know when to sell when no one wants to sell things. Like this guy just showed you, no one wanted to buy. This is what all the comments were saying. But I was looking to buy. Okay? So you got to buy when everyone's saying, oh, the economy is fucking blah, 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 blah. No one cares. Okay? This economic shit was priced in. He didn't understand the concept of priced in. Okay? And if you aren't capable of applying the perception versus reality framework, you're going to end up buying greed and selling fear, right? If you just buy something because it's a great project without considering what the perception is of the coin versus maybe more so the reality of it, you're going to buy at the wrong time, okay? And there's a really good tweet here. Good speculation and understanding fear and greed is a point of alpha once you understand all the underlying dynamics. So when you can recognize fear and you can recognize greed, what you're able to do is basically know when the price is near the bottom and know when the price is near the top. And if you know when price is near a bottom and near a top, you can apply that to any coin and make money, right? If you know when to buy and when to sell, you can make money on any coin. But if you know how to pick a good coin, you're not always able to make money. Okay? So if you've got to pick one thing to be good at, the entries or the exits or the picking the coins, you're better off just being good at the entries and the exits. But the ultimate combination is being good at getting entries, being good at getting exits, and being good at picking the projects which have the biggest gap between the entry and the exit, right? Because every coin, you're aiming to buy here and sell here, right? When you buy here, the idea is that the perception is way worse than the reality, and then you sell it here when the perception is way better than the reality, right? And picking a coin is basically just getting, a bigger gap between the entry and the exit, right? If you pick a shit coin, the gap between the entry and the exit is small. If you pick the best coin, then the gap between the entry and the exit is massive. So, if you can't pick a good coin, that's fine. You're still going to make money. But if you want to make the biggest returns, you've got to be able to buy low, sell high on the best coins in the market, which give you the biggest gap between the entry and the exit. Okay? Right? Let's do a better drawing. Like this, if this is the coin, right? Oh, fuck, actually no. I basically explain that as good as I can, okay? You have to speculate on how others will speculate, okay? Fundamental analysis is just basically guessing when other people will, want to buy something. It's guessing what coins people are going to think are going to have a lot of value in the future. That's what fundamental analysis is all about. Speculating on what other people are going to speculate with and on. Okay? That's how you make the big money. And knowing when the market's fearful, knowing when the market is greedy, is actually alpha. Okay? So buying fear is buying when the perceived value is lower than the real value, and vice versa. And if you want to invest, you need to literally learn how to buy low, sell high. This is a psychological issue, not a math issue. Okay? There's no like fundamental analysis math equation I can give you to know when to enter and to exit. It's a very much intuition, psychological phenomena, right? You know the market is during a period of fear because you feel it. You know the market has just hit capitulation because you can feel it. You see it online, you see all the comments, you see the fear. You can recognize when you've been through it before what capitulation looks like, right? This bottom was capitulation. That was a capitulatory bottom. Okay, I could see it, right? A lot of people who capitulated, selling because the economy was looking shit, because what was the thing that happened here? There was some big, bad, bearish news that happened here, and it led to a lot of people capitulating, okay? If you buy when comfortable and sell when if you buy when you're comfortable and you sell when you're comfortable, you end up buying all-time high and selling all-time low. Again, if you do fundamental analysis and you pick the best coin in the market, but you're only buying it because everyone talked about it on Twitter, and you're only selling it because it just was no longer a good coin, and it just felt like it was the right time to sell because it's dying, the price you end up buying at, right, because it was comfortable, is way up here, and the price you end up selling at is way down here. So you do this great fundamental analysis and you end up losing money. Okay? So here's an example of applying this concept of perception versus reality by a guy called Ansem. Ansem, people have mixed opinions about him, but he has done some really good investments. He has done very good on Solana. He's been bull posting about Solana since it was at a very low price, this bull run. And he's been right the entire way through. And he's very good at what I would call buying mispriced assets, okay? And he's explaining here why Bitcoin and Solana were the best performing assets. It's because they were both mispriced. They were under-owned and mispriced, okay? So most people, they bought Ethereum because they thought, I'm going to skip the Bitcoin ETF rally because I know that there's going to be a bigger rally for Ethereum. And they were looking at the deflation, the merge happened, EIP 4844. You know, a lot of people were placing bets on Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin. And Bitcoin fast became under-owned because people were trying to, skip it. And also, another component is it's under-owned by TradFi, right? The ratio between Bitcoin's market cap and gold's market cap was a very, very big differentiation in terms of how he's looking at it. And there's an ETF coming which was not priced in, right? The price of Bitcoin and the reality of how likely the ETF was to get approved was just not priced into the market. And with Solana, similarly, Solana was mispriced relative to the rest of the market, and people did not want to wait for lower. Okay, so you look at for example, the amount of developers on Solana, the protocols that are building on Solana, how easy it is to use different DeFi applications like Jupiter, Jito, MarginFi, etc., etc. You look at the longer-term vision actually playing out as expected from the different, core members of the team. You see Firedancer being developed by an insanely smart and, experienced developer team that have decades of experience in the stuff that they're building. And you look at all these different, fundamentals for Solana, and you look at how everyone hates it, and you can see that the actual value of Solana is going like this, whereas the price for Solana was going like this, okay? So this is an example of applying the perception versus reality framework to doing fundamental analysis. He was basically looking at how mispriced something is or how under-owned something is. And these words are the same. They come under this topic, okay? So yeah, this is just a basic visualization of what he was saying. This is the price, and this is what it was actually supposed to be worth. And he was saying that